Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the first week of season 26 of Beyond the Ordinary Show. And this evening, I actually put this on the email. So if y'all saw the email, you'll know it's Micheila Sheldan. And Micheila, I'll say it in front of you, but Micheila is one of my favorite channels. There's so much resonance in what she shares. And it's just, there's so much congruency in the way that she speaks what I feel and that can't necessarily articulate sometimes, but then in the articulation, there's a depth of understanding or maybe even embodiment or receiving. And then of course she brings in all this other profound information. And it's just such a joy to be and so peaceful. And I think peace is something that we need to talk about today, Micheila. It's coming up for me so strongly. It's so peaceful to be in that resonant knowing of truth, whatever that truth happens to be for you, but you can feel it as it shows up. So if you're new to Micheila or new to Beyond the Ordinary Show, or both, just I hope that you give yourself the peace to be on this call today and to receive what is here to be received. It's always an extraordinary conversation with Micheila, and I know without a doubt that today is going to be no different, and maybe even more so. So if you're not familiar with Micheila, let me tell you a little bit more about her. And I've stopped reading bios, but with Micheila, I'm really guided to do so because, again, if you're new to her, I want you to understand a little bit more. So Micheila Sheldan is an intuitive channel who has the ability to connect with a variety of guides, interdimensional beings, and collectives. And I have to share from my personal experience when I've had readings with Micheila and she's connected to certain avatars or ascended masters. It's the physical sensations and even the emotions that would evoke through me. It leaves me no doubt of the energy that's coming through. So again, she has the ability to connect, and the collectives, including Mary Magdalene, archangels, Jeremiah, the ancients, the ninth dimensional Lemurian and Pleiadian collectives, Arcturians, the Council of Light, and many others. Micheila channels detailed information about her history, structure, ascension, and transition to a fifth dimensional consciousness. Her awakening came during a struggle with a debilitating chronic pain, and through her connection to Source and her guides, Micheila completely healed herself, leaving her mainstream life behind to fully pursue her soul's purpose as a channel. Her mission is to inspire others to fearlessly live their soul's higher purpose and to support light workers through a very transitional time in our planet's history. And Micheila, with that, I want to welcome you and thank you for coming back to yet another season of BTO.
Thank you. I always love being here. It's so fun to be with you and everyone else hanging out and chatting about the world. What's going on?
Chatting about
the world.
We can take that in so many different directions. And it was in your write-up and it came up so strongly for me. And as I was talking in the beginning, there's this, I want to start with this essence of peace and how we can actually tap into the life force of it, because there's been, I've personally been speaking to a lot of people who just feel like they're being tugged in 50 or 100 different directions at the same time. Mm-hmm. And for me, I think that's also the tug between the pull of the higher vibrational states that we're accessing and what we're leaving behind. But how does this state of peace come about for you? How do we get into that life force energy and actually get into a habitual pattern so that we can sustain it for longer periods of time?
Yeah, that's a great analogy, actually, that you just brought up. But you know, the guides have really been leaning on peace so much. And for us, we tend to let emotion get in the way. So we think if we are upset about something in the world, that we can't be at peace with it. Because we have this responsibility, right? If something's going wrong, we can't be at peace with this because it's not right. And people are getting hurt and we're hurt and all of these other things. And certainly we have all of that going on. But the guides say that peace isn't actually an emotion. Peace is like our base frequency. It's truly who we are. It's our essence. So what happens when we attempt to sustain peace is that we can be in the world and we can feel what we feel, but we're not in a state of restriction. So we're talking a lot about life force tonight. And, I see life force also as equivalent to peace. It's really kind of one and the same. When we talk about life force signature, we hear this a lot in these circles. I want to live my life force signature. Well, that is simply universal energy coming through a unique form. Our life force signature is energy that we are imbuing upon the earth through our unique preference and decision, and how we go about doing everything, really, because that's why we're here. We're here to influence the earth through all of these little minute footsteps and interactions and creations. But to truly sustain peace, we have to realize that everything we feel is the motivating factor that is guiding us. We often get angry and we want to act out and we want to tell people things are wrong. We see so much of that going on, or we step back and think that we can't be angry because then we're creating something that we don't want. But what a state of peace allows us to do is utilize that anger intelligently, right? It's somewhat like expanding life force channels to bring in options, to bring in information, to bring in inspiration. That's really what we're going for. So if we're using emotion as a tool to restrict, we are not going to be in peace or the amplification of life force, where we're truly making a difference in our lives and in the world. Tough to, maintain. And I get this question a lot, what do you practice? What do we practice? How do we really get into the feeling of this? And I want to share something just kind of going off going into another topic here, which is leading into prosperity. Because it's really this beautiful message that came in just recently about who and what we are. So we think we have to effort at changing all of this stuff. And we came to be physical. So absolutely we want to do, but it's not the doing that actually changes things. It's the energy of the doing that is our legacy. So we are made up of all of these beautiful elements, earth, air, water, fire, ether, stars, planets. So if we can get into the feeling of what that is, universal energy, life force, we're going to attract so much. We're going to be so prosperous. We're going to be so inspired. We're going to have so many options. And that's like truly the goal, is for us to see more options right now than what we have.
Interesting. It's when you talk about feelings, I wonder if there's a differentiation between feelings and our emotions. Right.
When I'm saying getting into the feeling of it, we know this feeling that comes over us in meditation. We can get to those states of bliss, right? Where we kind of forget about the world. We forget about our body. We're evoking a frequency in those moments, but it's not logical for us to be in a state of meditation 24/7 because we have stuff to do, we have responsibilities and all of this. But what the guides are saying is, in ancient times, their entire life, everything that was in their life, routine, material, had its purpose in holding that state, right? So even just from choosing the clothing on your skin, things that really bring you pleasure, creating a space that has purpose and meaning that makes you feel good. This is how we come out of meditation, when we find ourselves in these states of, perfect unification with God, source, Christ consciousness, all of these things. We hold it, we sustain it. So we feel it, but we can have an emotion, we can observe, and we can say, that's not what I want for us or myself, but not get out of the alignment, let's say, that helps us to move through it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And again, it's connecting to it, and it's really using it or being in relation to it as an intelligence rather than a definition of who we are.
Absolutely. And that's really what physical reality is all about. Is kind of browsing through some channel content earlier this morning, and it was interesting because the guys are talking about conditioning, what conditioning is and what consciousness is. And they say that consciousness, what we are, is all meaning placed on matter through time. So we are a unique consciousness made up of all meaning placed on matter throughout time. But the second we have a shift in consciousness, we start to see everything in our world completely differently. So everything we've manifested around us, all of the things that exist in our life, we start to question. And that's when the uncomfortable phase comes. And we've been through this, haven't we, so many times in our, personal lives where we've shifted and we've up leveled, but we're in the massive chaos of it in the outer world, on the whole of the earth. That's what we're experiencing is the discomfort of a shift in consciousness showing us things in the outer world that are no longer resonant in a really profound way. And so it's hard to maneuver this time because there is so much that we're seeing through the transparency of higher consciousness that doesn't resonate. But this is why life force and states of peace are so incredibly important. And what we'll talk about in my offer in a little bit is a concept called the cosmic womb that the guides did some teachings on. And what the cosmic womb is, it's really our birthright. It's like a container that comes with us that organizes and prioritizes source energy, God fragments, because source is massive, it's massive. So like imagine this umbilical cord, attached to this incredible light container that is operating for us and bringing in everything that we need. But we have to be in a state of expansion to receive it. So we can't use these really narrow channels where we're looking at the world and saying, this is impossible. I mean, all I see is things going wrong. And that's what peace does for us. It's an expansive state where we can maneuver in life. And through our decision, through our every decision, through our every step, it is providing that next bit of information that we need to sustain us on the earth. Because we come with all of it. And that's a hard thing for us as humans to remember. We've been taught we're working for it, and that's the premise. We have to work really hard. Or, in some spiritual circles, we're taught that we have to manifest really hard. So we have to focus on what we want. And that's where we get restrictive and we get off our path, because what this cosmic womb, what the intelligence of this cosmic womb is truly about is our divine plan that we came to earth with. And I don't personally believe in all that I've channeled that it is so cut and dry and set in stone that there's no room for us to have any free will, right? Our free will is how we live within the plan, but also if we can be as expansive as possible and we can run life force in the direction of what we desire, these two things kind of work together. That's where we connect physical and non-physical. And that's what this, that's another, I think, big theme, John, of what this is truly all about on the earth is where, we've been really entrenched in physical, and we've spent a lot of time in spiritual. And now we're learning how to work together, with the modality and the intelligence of both of those aspects of ourselves, which is a true blessing, if you think about it, because this is going back to enlightened times where the ancients were manifesting huge pyramids with obviously very little physical effort. That's what's possible.
Amazing what's available to us right now. And even the concept of free will and how perhaps definitions of that are changing, because if you look at free will, it also invokes, part of it invokes that we're creating constructs based on our experiences. And so we're making decisions based on free will, and perhaps something is coming into us at the moment and we say yes or no, leaning a certain way according to what we believe to know to be true. But I believe, again, I believe also that concept of free will, it's evolving in a different way. The definition of the way that we've held it
totally agree
is progressing also. And so it's not as contained or in the box that we thought it should be, based on perhaps something might be taken away for us if we don't specifically choose, or even by
Right.
not choosing, that something will be taken away. So again, it's a different contrasting energy. It's getting into a more co-creative structure for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, like to simplify this, and this is what the guides have brought in, is we're really used to a lot of if-then statements. You know,
Yes.
we put a lot of conditions in our way of what is truly possible. And so right now we're in this kind of restrictive period where we're working that out, where we're really trying to come at all of this with a little more faith that if we do something, something else is not automatically going to happen. That's that, you know, the expansiveness of our ability in that realm is just huge. So what you're saying is also what the guides talk about a little bit with dimension. Universal law operates differently in different dimensions. And we obviously know Earth is moving into a higher dimension. So all of these things that we understand, you know, these concepts of universal law and how they've been taught, we're going to have to redefine them, which, you know, can seem a little confusing, but at the same time is kind of exciting, I think, as well, because we can't stay stagnant with this stuff. You know,
No,
why would we, what's the point of coming? If, you know, if this
it
was
feels
all
like we've, yeah, it feels like we live multiple lifetimes in this lifetime of those of the Groundhog Day that has been our lives. I mean,
yeah, yeah,
we're doing the
exactly.
same things in Thanksgiving. The same things are happening in the news, you know, on a continuous basis, but with different faces.
Right.
It just seems like it's like someone set the clock and everything is going off as it's supposed to according to that loop, but it's shifting, and we're becoming more and more aware. And I think we're becoming aware, more of us consciously, that we have been in that loop and how
Yes.
uncomfortable it is. And
Yeah.
some people want to judge it as the matrix or an operating machine that has imprisoned, but I don't necessarily buy that either.
hmm No, I agree with you. I think everything has a place. And, you know, a lot of times we'll criticize the third dimension, you know, "Oh, the third dimension, but we created that. I mean, that was perfect for us exactly where we were. You know,
Mhm.
even when we look at things like modern medicine, you know, there's a lot of criticism about, you know, conventional medicine and this and that. And I'm extremely alternative. So I'll just put that out there right now. But it doesn't necessarily mean that what we created before is wrong. I mean, it not only did it have a place then, because source energy is good and what we need will show up at the level that we need it, but it's, you know, it's meant to evolve to meet us as well. So when we're pushing up against something and trying to hold it in place, we really are not doing ourselves or the world's justice. I mean, we really have to flow with this stuff and allow it to transition. And I think there's a lot of, you know, resistance to that right now because it's so unknown. You know, it's just really different than what we are used to. But I think of it this way, you know, imagine the amount of progress that's going to take place in the
Oh, yeah.
coming years through all of this. You know, things that we've never seen on the earth before, you know, or created as humans are going to show up. And it's an advanced age of enlightenment that we're walking into. So I think it would be necessary for us to break down the barriers of things, you know, like the guides always say, when consciousness expands and we try to fit it into a really small box, we're going to start feeling really uncomfortable.
Mhm.
And that's really what this is all about. We're trying to fit expanded consciousness into one really tight box
Yeah.
that everyone else needs to fit into as well. But that could never be, you know,
Mhm.
that could never be.
I love how you talk about the expansion and how everything, you know, the advancements that we're seeing. And again, I just want to bring into a grounded awareness just how technically advanced we've become in the last 100 years compared to the last 2000 years, and how quickly in the
Yes.
scope of time that's truly happened. And so we take that into perspective and how fast things are moving now in comparison. Those 1900 years that led to this revolutionary time in the last 100 years, how quickly that shifted in only 100 years. Like what's shifting now, and what's the time gap in between that, comparatively speaking. So it's exponential what's happening.
Absolutely.
And
And,
we're
you know, I think
witnesses.
also we're moving into quantum time.
Yeah.
So even working with time on the earth is different than what we've known it before. So we might expect that it's going to take a really long period of time for us to work something out. And that's just not the case anymore, because to merge physical and energy in this, you know, way that we're doing right now is to move quantum, where things don't have to take place the way they did before. I mean, we're
Right.
already seeing this, it's just, you know, like you mentioned with technology, but spiritually, we're so advanced as well. I mean, it's incredible what people are doing. I mean, you have them on your show all week long. You know,
And
it's just,
they're on the they're listening right now.
of course. I mean, I meet with them all week long, and I feel so blessed because I have such faith and hope to see all of the amazing people and the things that they're doing in the world. It's incredible, really.
It really is extraordinary.
Yeah.
What do the guides, or what has been your communication? So there was a big report that came out about global warming and the change in the state of the planet and how many generations we have to sustain unless we make some drastic changes. And I'm wondering how the timeline that's reported according to the science we have now will shift, because I see us progressing and getting past that. It's like it's already done.
Yeah.
But there's the catching up, and I'm wondering what the guides have to say about maybe those alternate timelines that maybe we're choosing collectively.
Well, we have to remember that, you know, science is based on physical measurements for the most part, a lot of it, which we're moving out of as we go into quantum time. But so many other things that the guides have brought in that are incredible to think about. For example, and I'm going to take us back to Atlantis, okay, and just bring in some themes. We see a lot of really terrible things going on technologically as well, you know, things that can harm human health and all of this stuff. But in Atlantis, the technology that they created was actually to raise and sustain consciousness. It was like a vibrational tool, and it worked with the elements of the earth as well as the elements of the beings that were there. So the beings in Atlantis merged with technology in a really positive way. And what began to happen was their bodies and the elements of the earth simultaneously improved. And that's how connected we are. So just take that for a moment and think about how many of us are working with energy healing modalities, spiritual modalities, cleansing and detoxifying our bodies, right? We're different humans than we were 10, 20, 30 years ago. Things like that actually influence the environment. And we're really, a lot of us in the community, I would say, concerned about, frequency modification, because, that's been a really huge theme. But where we're going consciously and vibrationally, we are more immune to that stuff than ever before. So back to your question, do the guides think it's going to take that long? No, they feel like there's a lot of distortions right now going on the planet. And some of those are kind of hacks to keep us suppressed. And they're not truly focused on the integrity of the environment. We have a huge collective of children and adults on the planet right now with advanced technologies and protocols from the future and from the past that they're bringing to the earth today in this timeline that science doesn't even account for. So I think it's inevitable that the earth is going to go in the right direction. I agree with you. I think there's already a lot of incredible changes going on structurally. Like, for example, we don't account for grids when we talk. When mainstream science doesn't account for what's going on in the galactic grids, which I think we could spend 2 hours talking about right now, because that's been the constant theme from the guides for the last several years. We've had a lot of structural imbalance in the earth grids. And that's caused so many different anomalies. And a lot of the weather events, I think, that are going on today, while we know some of them are artificially manipulated, some of them are actually caused by this shift in frequency. We have these huge, intense plasma rays and solar rays and all of this coming to the earth. And she's a being, she's a consciousness. So she's upgrading just like we are. So I think left to our own and left to her own in the direction we are going, I think it's inevitable that we're going to see these changes happen in the right direction.
I agree. When the climate also, I mean, science even talks about the radiation coming from the sun bouncing off of the polar, because it's like a mirror effect, and it's nothing. So a lot of the climate change is coming from an organic source, not by what we're doing necessarily. It's a combination of things, but it's not all attributed. But when you, who's trying to suppress Micheila? It's a big conversation, I know, but
there's a big conversation, and it's a huge topic too, you know. So what I believe, this is what has come through my channeling since the very beginning, is we do have a reptilian consciousness. And so a lot of people want to say, well, it's the reptilians. Okay, it's them. But this is a really long history that has caused a certain merging at the DNA level and created a different type of human. We're really not designed to operate only through the mind and through physical. But unfortunately, that's what has happened. We've had a lot of DNA modifications. We're in a constant state of fight or flight. You know, all of these things are contributors to what we see on the planet. So we can't exactly point fingers just because there's this reptilian consciousness in our history. We've become it. It's part of our makeup. Yeah. We're waking up out of that, and we're creating our lives differently. And that's what it's all about, right? So we're here now to actually restore our original divine blueprint and DNA. And as we do, we don't have to worry so much about these people or the reptilians or anything else, because we're far more powerful individually and collectively than any one out there who's doing anything. And as a matter of fact, I think that when we point fingers at others, we're really becoming extremely disempowered. You know, even though, listen, I channeled an entire book about the history of reptilians and, you know, creation and what went awry. And that's all great to know. But 3/4 of the book takes us through how to become empowered again, because that's where it's at. It doesn't matter what anyone else does. It matters what we do and where our power is, and, you know, finding that again. So, you know, that's really the crux, I think, of all of this.
I so appreciate that you say that, because that's what I feel also. It's like, all right, so we're aware, and what are we going to do about it?
Exactly.
Like, it's like, well, how are we stepping forward? Because why am I going to go back to fight something that really I'm not going to allow to empower me anymore, or try to, or disempower me, excuse me.
Yeah, we've been kind of tricked to believe the savior is outside of us. And that's been our downfall in every area of society. But now we're reclaiming that. And, you know, we're coming to realize that we are the savior, not only of ourselves, but we are, you know, important to every other thing, every other human, every experience, right? It's how important it is that we live at our highest potential. So that's really what this is about.
Well, and I think we're starting to understand that as we become that awakened consciousness for ourselves, we understand the power of the ripple effects of our actions, not just on Earth, but galactically. It's like our individual choices and the repercussions that my choice has on you, Micheila, based on a level of consciousness. It's becoming that much more, we're more aware of the connectedness of it through our empathy that's really developing, again, at astronomical speeds for all of us in different ways. And just as we get in tune with that, we become aware of the potential harm or the potential good that we're doing. And then our own bodies react to it and all that. So it becomes this reciprocal exchange as we make choices moment by moment and connect to that cosmic wound.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the power of alignment. And I want to add to that because, that's an incredible way to explain our whole purpose for coming, because that's truly what it is. We're here in this web of consciousness and matrix to create something new from what was before. That's our entire purpose.
Yeah.
But we also come extremely individualized and diverse. And if we're not following the beat of our own drum, if we're not aligned with our decisions and we're making them for other people in ways that don't feel comfortable, this is truly where we are not benefiting the earth. So the guides would say it this way, to have a structure of a building, we have all these girders, and, the girders have to be, completely straight and aligned to hold up the floors, to hold up the walls. If we put too many girders on one side and arrange them all in the same way, the building would topple, right? So everyone's got their place. Everyone's holding something up that's supporting something else. And it may not look the same as others. And I know, at least in my community, and I'm sure so many in your community are feeling extremely alone because they're not understood. And there's a lot of hard lines we're being forced to draw right now. And sometimes they're wavy inside of us. We might agree with something over here and, not with something over here. And that's truly what this whole idea of life force is about. If we run life force organically in ways that make us feel comfortable and safe and happy and fulfilled, we can guarantee that we are serving and that we're affecting everything exactly the way we intended before coming.
Yeah, what's come up so strongly for me personally also, it's that alignment with truth and living from that. And again, how we feel it both mentally, physically, and etherically as well. And it's that truth that's like when you're just calibrated just a little bit off, how the whole intelligence of our system individually will respond to it. And we're being called to that more than we ever have been before. And it's that integrity that is that I think shaping the new consciousness and the timelines collectively that we're stepping into.
Right. And this whole idea of life force and working with the cosmic womb truly ties into that, because we're the messenger. We're not only receiving the message, but we are a part of that cosmic team, and we're sending one as well. So if we make a decision and we choose to run life force in a direction that isn't exactly comfortable for us, we're not benefiting anyone. We're not benefiting ourselves. We're not going to make that impact because we're restricting.
Right.
We feel disempowered and we choose something that isn't for us because we think it, for whatever reason.
Right.
Being out of alignment and sending that skewed signal is actually going to complicate everything else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love the way that you explained that. I think we should get into a special offer because I know so much has come through that. So April, will you put the link for the special offer in the chat box, please? And because I know that there's context in there that we're going to go through. And I have to go back to, this is probably 5 or 6 years ago when you were first on the show.
Oh my gosh.
I had a session with you and it was so profound. But we got into the technology piece, and I think it was Mary that was coming through. That was guiding, and she's like, it's like, we know that you're connected and that there's technology that's out there and that there's negativity in it, but that, and she was saying to me that you're really here to use technology and see it as a positive aspect, to use it for your benefit instead of to see it as the enemy. And she didn't word it that way. But to really know that if utilized in alignment, it's a tool for expansion and for consciousness. So to really bring the energy of that to it, as opposed to feeding it the energy of fear, opposed to feeding it the energy of something that's taking something away from us. And that helped me tremendously. And again, that was years ago, 5, 6 years ago, whenever you were first on the show.
Wow.
And it shifted my perspective on it. And when I go online or when people talk about 5G, and it's like, okay, how do we work with this and raise my consciousness along with it? There may be an uncomfortable period as I attune, but I know that I attune and go beyond. And there's growth in it.
Yeah,
There's something
absolutely.
for me in it. So
Yeah, we're molding and shaping it with our consciousness. So if we use technology consciously and, for really good things, technology is going to evolve in that direction. And that's, I think that message is so profound.
Yeah.
For everything. Gosh, for everything. For everything. Yeah. I'm pulling up my cheat sheet here too, because it's a lot. There's a lot in this offer.
There's so much in there. And the link's in the chat box. And if you can't find your chat box or can't find the link for whatever reason, you can always open up a new web browser and go to beyondtheordinaryshow.com/Micheila26, and it'll take you to the special offer page. Micheila, if you would guide us through this.
Yeah. So if you're new to my my work, I do channeled courses, and they come as a huge download. And what you'll see on the special offer is actually a channeled roadmap to where the guides are taking us. And I put that together before I channel the course. And so the first one, offer A, is my latest and brand new, actually still doing the live transmission. So you're not too late. You only missed one. And it's on the video. You'll have them for life. All about prosperity. And it's entitled Prosperity: A New Age of Abundance. This course is through a lot of different masters. We've had the Order of Isis. We've had the Nihal. We had an incredible transmission from Akhenaten and Nefertiti.
Wow.
As well. But there's probably going to be about 6-7 hours at least of channeled content in this course. There is an intro video, which is beautiful. It's entitled Reunion, and it's through the Nihal and the Order of Isis, where they take us into this beautiful kind of meditation where it's actually like an astral journey, really, to go into the heavens and truly remember this frequency of prosperity, which was a merged state before coming to Earth. But it prepares you for the channel transmissions. And this is what exact words they said. It is a mix of word, code, and law. So you're receiving word, code, and law. And in every transmission, we're doing some meditative practice. So we're going to learn about the origins of prosperity, like the law of prosperity. They're going to translate that really simply for us. The energy of exchange, your soul's worth, equalizing abundance. And what I really love about this course too is they're taking us into the fifth dimension and giving us a little snippet about, or maybe like a little kind of a gateway into what it's going to be like. What is the fifth prosperity in the fifth dimension even like? What does that mean? How do we prepare for it now? There's a live Q&A 2-hour at the end. And then I always have Facebook groups, and my community is your community. I know there's like crossover, and there's loving, wonderful, supportive souls that are meeting in person and doing the courses together. So that's option A. Option B is 18. And this, I'm going to be honest, I shouldn't say it's my favorite. I have so many favorites, but this was 18 was just a really, really good one. And if you're going to do 19, 18 is a prelude. They just fit super nice together. So everything we've been talking about, life force, the cosmic womb of all creation, this was exclusively through the Magdalenas and the Great White Brotherhood in perfect feminine and masculine balance. I said this many times. Love that. This is another 7 probably hours of channeled content, all on video. You'll have it for life. You can peruse it as many times as you want on my website. Awesome introductory message about the origins of the cosmic womb. So we get all of the background of what this is and how it works. They even go into a navel complex and an etheric cord in our navel that's really important to understand and heal. Oh, wow. So there's some really cool stuff, activations around that. But they, for this period of time on the earth and all of the decisions we have to make, all of these transmissions guide us about how to sustain levels of peace, how to run life force, how are we a creator? They even bring in the concept of God. We have to understand that. How are we God if we are creators? What does that mean? We learn about our internal GPS and intelligence, and even how to anticipate how we're creating in non-physical already. How do we know? How do we know what we're incubating and where we're going? So all of that's in there. Another 2-hour final transmission, and you can put them together. And together, I think again, probably 16 hours. And you'll get some of that live if you do Inner Circle 19, and the rest will be video. So
you get the combination either.
Yeah. Doing them both. And I kind of like, those who've done my courses before, they're really fitting nicely together. The guides are just kind of progressing us into each next issue that we might be facing on the planet. So I think these two are just super, I think, I'll say, important for where we are now.
I would agree. And I love that it's the Magdalene collective, if you will.
Yeah.
And the energy of that feminine has been coming in so strongly as I've been working with clients and other people and for them. And for me, over the last few weeks, the Great White Brotherhood is showing up again. Even I learned today that Ashtar is part of the Great White Brotherhood, and I didn't know.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. And so, but again, someone spoke to me about that, and they like read something for me. It's like, you're connected to Ashtar. And they told me it was that. It's like, oh, the Great White Brotherhood, it's showing up so strongly and profoundly in my field through different messages that are coming in.
I have to tell you, I really haven't worked with them too much before this course. And before I channeled this course, 18, they were coming into my dream state. And I was literally seeing them, and they're the ones that give this profound transmission on peace. So they explain what it is, how to sustain it, why it's so important. It all comes through them. That's really their thing and their message. So if you jump into that course, you'll love that one. I think it's like the third hour transmission in there that's just exclusively through them. And they're so powerful, but so loving.
I'm getting the chills because, again, peace is what resonated for me at the beginning of the call.
Yeah. That's exactly what they were bringing in.
That's the message that they were doing, and then the connection with them. So that's something also, Micheila, that's showing up so much. The signposts, that GPS signs along the way, they're becoming, if we pay attention, or if we listen or pause or just kind of notice what's playing out for us, and the nudges, there's so many. We're being so facilitated in so many different ways.
Yeah, that's the beauty of being physical too. The guides, they give us so much in physical. And if we can be present, in quantum, we're going to see the magic of how much support we truly have.
Right. Amazing. Everybody, this, again, I've already mentioned what a huge fan I am of Micheila, or I won't say fan, because how in alignment it is, and how the way that Micheila shares and her channeling, which you haven't experienced today, it just speaks to my heart in resonant truth. And in that I find peace, in that I find community. Just hearing the truth validated that I have, for me, as I hear an echo of it through Micheila's expression in different ways. And just that alone is worth the price of one, if not both of these. And so much more. And so, again, I invite you into everything Micheila Sheldan. And again, in this special offer at the discounted prices, it's just such a gift to be able to participate, especially on the live calls, if you're going to do that as well. So again, you've got the 3 offers. You can either do package A, package B, or do the combination of both. And they're available right there in the special offer page for you. So do take advantage of it. And again, the link again is in the chat box. And again, you can go to beyondtheordinaryshow.com/Micheila26 to get to the same page, in case you can't find the link in the chat box. This is wonderful, Micheila. So thank you for that. So I'll stop sharing my screen now. And God, we're running on such great time today. Can we jump into live calls?
Of course.
Let's do live Q&A. So if anybody wants to ask their personal questions, raise your hand, and I'm going to start promoting some of you to panelists here so that we can start taking your calls. I typically do this sooner, but I was immersed in the conversation. And Stephanie, since you popped up first, let's get you to unmute and get you to ask your question, please.
Well,
And welcome.
hi. Oh my, hi. I've been enjoying this so much. Thank you, John and Micheila, for this evening. I was literally just using my pendulum, like, okay, should I take action on these classes? Because I've been pondering this all day. I am an energy worker, and I do find a great bit of joy in being in this role. And I've just felt a lot of stagnation. I've been trying to make forward progress and being present for other people and doing this thing. And I feel really stuck. And so my question is asking you, Micheila, is there any inspired guidance that you can receive and share with me about this?
Absolutely. We're going to actually bring in the Arcturians, and we have Archangel Michael here as well. So we'll speak as a one voice in unison, because it's important to understand it isn't just one area of stagnation that many are facing on the planet today. There are a multitude of reasons that humans such as yourself, who are advancing forward areas of human consciousness, are not able to physically move energy. What we first want you to recognize is that there is a great level of transition going on within every human soul at this time. And this means that energy is moving very quickly, but also that human consciousness is shifting just as quickly. And in these moments, what we are attempting to do is not push outside of the bounds of the readiness of the human collective. We may feel stalled because what we are yet to create is not the level that humans are able to currently receive, meaning there is something more cosmic that is coming through us. There is something that is matching a fifth dimensional potential that hasn't come to full fruition yet. And so we're being called in these times to not only have a patient heart, but to go inward and work upon the greatest expression of energy, which is ourselves, which seems contradictory to moving a business forward. But what we are in the world comes from within us. And we can be guaranteed, if there is something in our way, it is causing us to stall for great purpose. This is mysterious to us. We do not understand that there could be some unknown resource that is coming to support us. We may not understand that there is a great channeled transmission or new understanding that we are meant to merge with our work. Or there may be something within us that is yet to be healed that is diminishing the way that our work is magnetized in the world. We're not saying that this is by your fault or by the fault of any. It is just a process somewhat like nature. When the leaves fall off the trees, the roots are taking nourishment from the soil and preparing to bloom again. But if the tree did not go through this process, it would never be renewed. So be patient with this. Direct your attention not to what you cannot do, but what you can, because this is how the universe works. Sometimes it is calling our attention to the things in our life that we wouldn't imagine have some great influence on the future of our work. It may be to tidy up something in our physical lives that is allowing a new foundation to appear. We also want to leave you with one other thought. In general, as we look at the earth, we are seeing somewhat of a suppressive and stagnant energy, but it is only temporary. It is not something that will extend beyond this period of time. And it is important to recognize that you are physical humans with spiritual abilities who will focus into time in new ways and change it for all others. But until that time fully arrives, be at peace with what is. This is the greatest force of the universe that can come through you and shift your way.
Beautiful. Oh, thank you, Micheila. Thank you, Stephanie, for the question.
Thank you, Micheila. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, of course. Micheila, you and I, I was sharing at the beginning, before we went live on the call, that it's most recently I've been feeling like pulled in lots of different directions, and
Right.
I felt a contribution of it from a very linear to-do type of list thing that kept piling up that seemed to be dragging, but also the pull of how rapidly my energy is speeding up and how my body is perhaps acclimating to it. So again, there's like the stretching, I guess is the best way to describe it. But then there's the middle part of me that can't figure out which way to go. Yesterday, I felt like I was a spinning top and I didn't know where to stop. How can we acclimate to this so that we don't feel like that we're spinning on a consistent basis like that? Because it's pretty intense.
We're going to work with the Pleiadians a little bit on this. And we want to explain technically what you're feeling in your vibration before we give some advice on how to handle it. Because what we're seeing within all of you, some of you more than others, is a great influx of parts of you from other dimensions. When we reach a certain vibration and level of consciousness, we open the door on our Akashic record. And the more we know of this, the more we attract of it. And this is a positive, for it is a part of your divine blueprint to bring in as much energy as you can from other identities, even if they're cosmic, because it benefits your current reality and the earth to work with this much knowledge. But this is quite a divide from what you are used to. If we take you back into past experiences, many of you have been so suppressed that you have only been working with past life fragments that have been extremely karmic. And these have felt very dense and sometimes slow, and you've only been working with one timeline at a time. But now your capability is far more. So you're attempting to keep up with and manage the amount of integration and wisdom and knowledge that is coming to you and express it in physical. But this is our advice for how to come to calm and peace with this. There is a great deal of assistance and support that is also coming in from the universe, and you are not used to this amount of letting go. So each day, it is prudent to prioritize what it is you see as most important for your day and allow the universe to support the rest. Because the more that we give up and outside of ourselves, even if we do not know how it is going to be resolved, the more we will find within us to support the way, you see. So it's somewhat like pushing back on the responsibilities that you feel in physical, which are actually already being assembled in non-physical and do not need the full physical attention that you are placing on them. Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah. It is kind of like a vortex, right? You feel like there's this, this spinning kind of going around on. And some of us are meant to move really quickly right now. And others are not. And we were having that conversation before the call, and you were talking about your world, and I was saying I just feel so grounded in mine. It's quiet and it's good, and I'm here. So it's a great deal of contrast.
It really is
going on. Yeah.
And again, we're going through our individuated experiences. But speaking of that, also, we're also picking up. It's again, we're going into this place of integration and integrity and truth within ourselves. But we're also feeling the collective going through their individuated process of that as well. So it's again, we're in this stew. Again, we're greater empathy and a greater awareness, if not logically, at least physically or interdimensionally, on how it's our capacity to pick up on it.
Yeah. Mary Magdalene wants to touch in on this, and I welcome her. This great deal of empathy that you feel and desire to heal and support others around you is your nature. Yet at the same time, you often forget that the foundation of all of that exists within your own life. It is not selfish to support yourself to the degree that resource overspills and that love overspills and that wisdom overspills, because this is not only a physical act. We forget that we are one with all things. So the importance of our walk upon the earth is profound. We are more than what we believe we are. We are an ascended master leaving behind the legacy of our lives. And this is what most influences every contract and human around us. Yet we also know this deep need and feeling exists right now to purge suffering from the planet. And we want to speak to the concept of suffering for a moment, because it is sometimes confused with a different type of definition of what we believe you are experiencing, which is turbulence. Turbulence is not the same as suffering. When we are in a state of turbulence, we may feel the chaos. We may observe things in the world happening in ways that we do not desire. But if we choose to suffer or take on the suffering of another, we will never know our purpose in it all. We will never understand how it is that we serve. So sometimes we get into the suffering of others because we believe it is our responsibility to feel the way that they feel. But if we can uphold the opposite for them, this is far more powerful than us stepping into the suffering. When we see turbulence in the world, our goal is to become the ever-present force of peace that is necessary for those on the other side of the world who cannot hold it in their current circumstances. This is the greatest support that we can offer the whole of humanity.
Beautiful. Oh, thank you so much for that.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's such an amazing call. All right, let's go to another caller here. Danielle, let's get you to unmute, please, and welcome.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hi. I was wondering if you could please channel a message from Jesus to me, please.
Do you want to know something crazy? When I got on this call, I was meditating right before, and Jesus came in, and I was like, "Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you." And then I was getting on the call again, and I heard Master Jesus. Okay,
Thank you so much.
Jesus here for somebody. I was just waiting for that moment. So let's
Really? Oh, that's so funny. That's so funny.
yeah, let's bring Jesus in. It is my pleasure and honor to join all of you today, as you have gathered in such a union of love that it is equal to the greatest frequency of my heart. But my story is one that I want to remind all has been translated differently than its origins. And all of you today who are here on the earth carry a very significant part of what the journey of Christ is truly about. It is not about a savior coming to the earth to support all others, but perhaps a reflection of the possibility of rebirth that can take place within every soul. This is my greatest teaching. It was imbued upon me, and it was my greatest honor and grace to walk it as a physical soul. The miracle does not come through the action. It comes through the presence of your soul's participation. This is my most important message for you individually, as well as all of those who gather here. We are often thinking of what to do. And in the doing, we forget that there is a certain level of transference that is taking place within every interaction, within every conflict, within every situation that we are faced. If we are not fully present, if we do not put ourselves in a quantum state where we are not only the observer, but participating, we will miss out on the greatest joy that a soul embodies for. It is not because there is something there for us that we must learn. This is a false pretense. We're not here to learn from our mistakes. but we are here to stand within our will and support the will of others, regardless of the actions at hand. We are to see them for exactly who they are, for they are no different than ourselves. We are a literal mirror reflection of all things possible. And if we uphold that within our frequency and we are present with others, we will share that possibility with them as the magical transference of our soul's own essence. Many blessings. Oof.
Makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
And there's a lot there, and you'll be able to come back and listen to this again in the replay, Danielle, as well, all of y'all. So we'll send that replay link out. But that's beautiful,
Thank you.
Micheila. Thank you. Thank you
You're
so much for
welcome.
asking.
You're
that.
welcome. Yeah.
Thank you so very much.
I have a question that came in from Robin, and Robin, I love that you end this talk about first world problems, which we can laugh about, but it's. And we can get into the judgment that you're having a first world problem because someone else is having a different experience, but we won't go into that now. I want to read what she wrote. Robin writes, my confidence is a bit worn down currently, and I'd like to ask my guides or yours whether it was my life force in April that came alive when I stepped onto a country property. And within minutes, I decided I had to put in an offer and subsequently bought it. I'm asking because since then, I freaked out over a pretty big mortgage. And at the time, I felt that I had to think big. But what of my life force and this house? And so I guess she's worried about the big mortgage and was it the right choice? And
Right.
again, sometimes we do get called, think big. And it's like, oh,
Right.
What's leading that, right?
Yeah. This is Kuan Yin. I welcome her. There is never any decision we make that is wrong. And the second that we perceive it is wrong, this is where we lose our confidence, because we are judging ourselves in a way that is not resolving the issue, nor is it reflecting the frequency that we need to support where we stand today. We are always guided, and it is our excitement that we are meant to follow. So to hold on to that thread of excitement through whatever challenge you face is the energy that will see you through it. If you are to remember the original decision, it was made in this state. And if it was made in this state, you can, with complete confidence, assure yourself that it was right. But in terms of prosperity and monetary abundance, sometimes we find this is an area in our lives that wane. And it's been taught to us that there is something we have also done wrong in how we have used manifestation skills and techniques to assure ourselves the living that we desire. But we do not know where that living is ultimately meant to come from. We want to go back to the message from a moment ago, where the great mystery of the unknown support comes back in. When we are thinking so small that it is only up to us, this is a very restrictive state. So for us to step into the unknown with the faith that there is something coming that we do not see is what allows life force to truly run. And we are holding not only the faith and confidence for you in this moment, but sharing it as a code through these words so that you may find it within yourself. When a time to leave whatever decision we have made in the past arrives, we will do it. That decision may not be today. We may find tomorrow that it changes in a heartbeat, but we are standing where we are with everything we need and can see no lack, such that the universe, source energy, God, and all that we are show up to life in a way that allows it through us, as opposed to forcing it into being. Yeah.
So beautiful. I love it when Kuan Yin comes through. It's just like, my heart just like I get into that peaceful state. Her Mother Mary, just like,
I love her messages too. And I kind of want to add something just personal here, because I went through a period in my life when I moved from, kind of like a mainstream life into doing this work. And it required a lot of letting go and a lot of faith and trust, like stepping off the cliff with no, cushion. And for a while, it was really scary. And I was holding on really tight and I was counting every penny and I was freaking out every day that I wasn't going to be able to make it work. And I wasn't making it work. It just wasn't working. But what my guide stepped in and told me is I was going to have to surrender the way I did things before, the way the money came, who it came from, where it came from, all of the things that I was holding on and fighting for, I had to let go for a new pattern to emerge. So in other words, my slate was totally wiped clean. And my surrender point was the beginning of stepping out of it. It was where my channeling took off. The resource and the abundance that I needed started to show up in people and in ideas and places and things. And I think this is what Kuan Yin is saying. When we have this big idea, it's not that the idea is wrong, but we kind of go through a period where we let go of what we relied on before and how we did things before to let that new fifth dimensional timeline show us the way, which may be different than what we're anticipating.
Yeah, for sure. I remember when we first met, I remember what you're charging for your sessions, and it just blew my mind the way of how extremely accessible, just put it that way, and Micheila was. I was like, what are, it's like, no, it's like, because there's like, yeah, I could just feel it. And God, it's just.
I worked very hard for a good number of years, and I still work very hard, but not in the same physical way that I did. But it was a different mindset, right? There's just this really divine flow that's come into my life. And it just works. Everything just works so nicely. And it's a lot to let go of. I mean, it's not our fault. I grew up in, a blue collar family. My dad worked for GM. My mom was a nurse. My life was all about work. You work hard to earn every penny. And then, that develops some great character traits in me. I'm a go-getter, but we're in a different world. We're in a different timeline reality. Things work differently, than what they did then. So,
but it's my experience also as well. I think we have similar upbringings in that way, in the working hard and setting things in and how we put value on it. But I've witnessed it in you and in me, because again, we've kind of like grown through this in different aspects, and how by allowing our cup to be filled up in that abundant way of support, that we are able to give and to support others from an overflow rather than emptying out the cup and starting all over again, which it's really not sustainable for us, at least for me. I know it can't be for you either.
No, so much. I totally agree with that. I mean, you get to this point where everything in your life is taken care of.
Yeah.
And then you're so free to support more people that it just, it comes back twofold. It's just kind of revolving energy around you. And, it's beautiful. And I'm just going to say, financially, and this is really coming into the prosperity course too, there's this idea on the planet that we all need to make the same amount of money and everything needs to be equalized. And, we need to make six figures and all of this stuff. And I don't necessarily buy into that. I think we're all here to live different lives in different ways. Our comfort level is different. There are things that we're going to need for our work that others are not. And when we get into a fifth dimensional potential, it just kind of all works. It's just equal. And you know what I'm talking about, John? It's like, the car breaks down and just the right amount of money comes in to fix the car, and I don't, to be honest, and I don't think about it much anymore. I have gotten to such this level of faith and flow that if something goes wrong, I kind of know it's going to be fixed. It's not perfect. Like, I'm human, right? But I'm just saying it's a different mindset, perhaps than what we're used to.
I think it's faith compared to the way that we used to run it.
Yeah, definitely.
And again, it's in that faith, it's the support's going to show up.
Right.
A question that I want to get into, or a concept, and I'm speaking for myself and a couple of other people that I know are on this call. It's that So we get into vibrational accordance of those things that we're asking to bring in, and they show up. But then we get into an energy of waiting for the shoe to drop, because maybe it's like something's got to go wrong, something's not going to happen. How does that affect that level of being in congruence, and then the fear that it's going to go away, and how does that affect the stability of what's actually there?
Yeah, absolutely it does, because it's restriction, right? So if we have this cosmic womb and it's a container that is prioritizing and organizing source energy for us, and we have something wonderful come into our life and then restrict, everything that needs to come after that is going to be less. But also we have to remember that, I think this is a good thing to keep in mind, to counteract that. Everything that comes into our life is the foundation for the next thing. So we want to appreciate everything we have right now. And I think this goes beyond a gratitude practice, right? Like sometimes we want to, we have this terrible relationship in our life and we want to jump out of that into the twin flame. And what the guides would say is, that's quite a distance from where we are, but we have to find in that relationship the alignment first, because we're building from that and we're moving into, right, the next. So if we can remember that the things that come into our lives are really to be cherished, not feared, because they are the determining factor for how that one thing, whatever it is, continues to improve and expand, get better.
Yeah, and as you said, it goes beyond gratitude. The word that came up for me was reverence. There's like a reverence.
Yeah.
It's honoring the divinity of the gift that's there. So it's amazing.
Well, and here's the clincher too, is sometimes we get things that we didn't ask for that we might question if they're right for us. And I see so many people, and so I'll just give you my own, twist on this. For many years I practiced law of attraction, and I had that vision of that one thing, that red car in a certain, style that I needed to have. And I don't think that really that is what we're meant to do. We're meant to be more general than that. If we're running life force to our soul's preference, comfort, safety, excitement, we're sending the exact signals to source necessary to land everything that is in our divine plan perfectly. So instead of quickly negating things that come into our life, well, that's not red, right? We have to kind of step back and pause and appreciate and question and go, well, this is here for a purpose. This would not come into my life had it not been for some great purpose. All meaning placed on matter through time. That includes relationships. It includes everything, everything.
That's amazing. And again, this takes me back into the special offer, everybody. And again, April, if you'll put the link in the chat box, because this is about developing our life force and taking in those experiences. All those are part of the development also, but, aligning and attuning and embodying, again, the experiences, the gifts, and the present moment, all of it. And again, how you share it, Micheila, and put it all together through these special offers, and again, in the work that you do in so many ways, but here specifically for the special offer and the opportunity to work with you in this way. Again, I hope you guys take advantage of working with Micheila and diving in. There's so much, not just wisdom, but attunement that I can feel happening on these calls. And so it's there for you to participate and again, and expand with Micheila and her community and with the guides that are showing up. So the special offer is in the chat box if you want to go ahead and purchase now. And Micheila, with that, let me take another live caller here. Anne Sanchez. Hello, welcome to the call.
Hi, good evening. Thank you so much for having me on. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you great. Okay. What's your question for Micheila? Yeah.
Nice to meet you, Micheila. Thank you, John. My question is that the last couple of years, my perception of time has very, very changed. And I mean, the only way I can say is that it's almost like being high all the time, but I'm not. I don't know. So I'm just wondering, I wanted you to talk more, and I get a lot of visions of what time really is and what it isn't as well. But I was wondering if you could talk more about where we're headed with that, and what that the change for us is, or where that's going. Just this the big picture.
Well, linear time is how we've measured in the third dimension, but that has been relegated to something extremely physical. But truly what time is our attention. So the guides bring up this really great, example. We might have, a kid in class who goes to math class, and it's the same hour as science class, but the math class drags on and on and on. Why is that? Because there's no excitement there. There's no attention. What we're striving for in the fifth dimension is to run our energy, our life force, into exciting things, to be like really present with everything. And as we do, we kind of lose time. And time doesn't seem to matter anymore. We have as much time as we need, or time just kind of goes away. And I have noticed that in my own life as well, where I'm really not, I do have things on my schedule, but one of the biggest shifts that I made that just came supernatural, because I, in this work, and I'm, working for myself, is no alarm clock. There's no clocks in my room. I go to sleep with the darkness. I wake up to the light whenever that is, and I start my day, and it's so incredibly freeing, right? But when we think about quantum time, it's really that. It's us following our excitement to the degree that we don't really have to worry about a schedule anymore. That's where I think we're going in the fifth dimension, and that's really what the guides would say. But the beauty of this too is that, and this is really kind of a cosmic understanding. So quantum is where we're affecting multiple realities at once, which we kind of always are, but we're really moving into a period of time where we're becoming more collectively focused, meaning that what we do is intersecting with more in the etheric to accomplish more elsewhere. Kind of crazy, when you think about it. But there's also this anomaly around that. A lot of you on the call might have heard, the mandala effect, right? So what's truly happening with that is we're moving into a new dimension where time works differently, where everything gets reconfigured. So if we had a photograph, a movie, a picture from something before, and we bring it into the fifth dimension, it's kind of like breaking it apart into pieces and assembling it again in a new fashion. This is happening to our memory a lot. I don't know if some of you have family members who maybe aren't so spiritually focused, and you start to remember things differently because you go through this metamorphosis where you put the pieces together in your mind differently because they're vibrating at a higher speed, right? So I think that what you're feeling in this bliss is kind of the excitement of just flowing with life, where we've been so relegated to measuring time and being in a schedule that it's really not for us anymore to do that. It's restrictive. It diminishes us. Mm-hmm. Does that resonate? Is that what you're feeling?
Yeah, that does definitely resonate. And there's this, it feels also that I can connect at any moment to any other time and any other timeline. Like it's always there with me. I could go there now. I'm there now.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of information in my book about the spiral of time, which I love. This is like some really incredible deep chapters on the great spiral. We are the spiral. Mm-hmm. So we think, well, we're in this spiral, but actually we are fragments that are all making up the spiral. So it is possible for us to operate in multiple timelines at once, or to jump timelines if we want, because it's all entangled, like it's all a web of consciousness. But we do have to be, I think the key to all of this, feeling like you do, working with time that way, is presence, is mindfulness. That's what we have to practice if we really want to get there. Because if we're in the past too much, We're in the future too much. We're not quantum. We're not present. We can't, that's where all those timelines intersect. They intersect in the now moment. So the more present we become, the more we are going to feel this kind of otherworldly connection to time and way that we influence other things. Or really just have awareness. We'll have awareness of it. We're always kind of doing it. We just don't have direction of it or awareness of it if we're not fully present.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you.
I received that download such a long. It was channel. I asked what time was. I heard time is where your presence is. That was that's informative.
Nope. I couldn't. I'm having trouble hearing you, Don.
Oh, let's see. There
There
she
you
goes.
go. Now you're better.
And I heard this download, and I heard time is where your presence is, and that's it.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
Where your energy is, where your attention is.
Yeah. What's happening with this time reality, like Anne, that you're in this particular wave and you can tap in and you're just going there. And Micheila, you describing family members or other people in our lives kind of being at a different kind of time. I'm finding that as we're shifting to this, and a lot of people in my community, that relationships are kind of being redefined. We're getting more attuned to who can attune to that level of speed that we're in, and that there's patterns changing relational dynamics now because of that, because we have to be in truth of whatever is running through us. We don't have to be, but we're choosing it. It feels like we're lagging or dragging if we don't.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Even going back to ancient times and some of the teachings that has already come into the prosperity course, relationship is key, and especially with life force, because we are here to nourish each other vibrationally and support each other in that way. And if that's not there, and another partner is awakened to the fact that they need that in their life, that's going to be a challenging issue. I mean, I've been, since I started this, work, watching relationships metamorphosis in just, all directions. I think that's been really where we're working a lot of this stuff out.
Yeah, for sure. And again, it can be with our tribe, it can be with friends, it can be with an intimate partner, but there's so much shifting in the relational dynamics.
Yeah. Well, the guides have even said, John, over the next, they've really been talking about over the next year. So we're talking about the remainder of, 2021 into 2022. There is going to be this really huge, they call it a massive realignment on the surface of the earth, where humans are going to be moving locations geographically. And what this is magnets drawing magnets, and cosmic families drawing cosmic families, and great reunions and all of this stuff. And that's when they're anticipating a lot of incredible work really taking off. Not because it hasn't already, or, it won't on your own, but this is going to be more of a community type of, co-collaborative environment that we're stepping into in the fifth dimension. And that's going to be the first step. And you can kind of already see it. A lot of people are uprooting. Almost every session I do, people are asking, I need to move. Where am I going to go? So we're feeling it before it's happening. Yeah,
absolutely. I've been feeling I was going to move for months now, and then the decision was made from a landlord says, I'm moving back. It's like, oh, I am moving. It's like, and I don't know where yet, but there's a surrender. It will reveal itself. It's just, there's an alignment taking place, but I'm vibrationally aligning within me. And then I feel that that'll show up. So it's a little harrowing because I'm so used to knowing in advance or feeling in, but it's different. It's different. And again, everything is shifting so quickly that to try to make a decision now based on what's still moving doesn't seem right at the same time. So it's just breathing into it and being present, and it will be revealed.
Yeah. And this isn't for everyone, this message, but I will say I've had a lot of people receive this message in session and otherwise, is that we should try to stay a little transient over the next couple of years. It's a good time to say we're going to explore. So if we are forced to move, or we feel like we have to move, we might be just kind of checking out some areas and see, because that shift, that great realignment that's coming that's going to be huge. So we might get called again, so in some of my sessions, the guides are saying, don't put your anchor down too deep, go, it's something. And again, this is not for everybody. We all have different divine plans and things going on, but in general, with what's happening on the plane of the earth and all of this movement, things are going to shift a lot over the next couple of years. So
amazing. I can't believe we're already an hour and a half in, Micheila. I was going to take more questions, but we're so deep in it. Everybody, the special offer, go deeper with Micheila. There's the live calls in package A. You're going to get recordings of everything package A and package B if you choose both packages. Oh my God, I have to listen to the Great White Brotherhood messages and
do that one. That's for you.
for sure. That's like the first one I'm going to listen to, but I'm going to get into the other ones as well, because again, it sounds so, I can feel it in my heart and my solar plexus, just what's running through. It's amazing. Micheila, thank you for the way that you share so generously and with the intention of a purification that you bring in, which is just wonderful, and the way that you transmit and so that others can receive based on how they're hearing it for themselves. It's aligned in such a beautiful way that I just want to keep praising you over and over again, and I'll stop. So thank you for
right back at you.
Thank you. And for everybody on the call, thank you all. I wish I could have gotten to some more live callers. I think we went through a lot, but still, I want to call on everybody. It's such a great conversation. But the replay will be available. So come back and listen to the replay, come back and get into the energy and into the wisdom, and be at peace in your heart and mind. And until our next call, I'll meet you in peace as well. And I bid you namaste. Until our next call, have a great evening. Bye-bye.